Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm a global artist ambassador for FENIX360, and I am blessed to be joined today by the Grammy nominated producer, JonFX. Hey, John, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Hey John, what's up? Thank you for having me here. You know what I mean? Love the vibes. Big up, one love. Yes.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
brother. Thank you so much, man. And I'm looking forward, John, to learning about your journey in becoming a producer and the impact that you've made in music, throughout your career. So I would love to do that, but okay if we tune into your track, Arms Around You first?
Yes, yes, yes,
All
yes.
right, great. All right,
Go
everyone, let's
ahead.
tune
Yeah,
in
man.
now. Let's tune in now to John FX with Arms Around You.
I see the sunrise when you wake up. You're beautiful with no makeup. I wonder if you were dreaming, making love when I'm sleeping. I see you wearing my t-shirt. You turn me on, you a big flirt. Saturday morning is spending, no work for the weekend. Oh, 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 arms around you, girl. Arms around you, girl. I'm missing. Oh, 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 arms around you, girl. Let me love you, girl. Arms around you, arms around you, arms around you, girl. Arms around you, girl. Arms around you, arms around you, arms around you, girl. Arms around you, girl. Arms around you, you're my mommy, let me hold you. Let me arms right around you, girl. Oh, yeah. Good love, I got all around you to make sure no one can harm you. Let me, mommy, let me have you. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'ma say, oh, 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 arms around you, girl. Arms around you, girl.
Hey, John, nice, man. Great to share your music with everybody. Thank you, brother. Now, can you tell me, where are you from originally? And how did you first become gravitated to music?
Yes, so I'm from Jamaica. St. Andrews born, Natal Hospital, lived in Portmore all my life. My parents go to the church in Tower Hill Missionary Church in Waterhouse. So I there was instruments there at the church, and I used to always mess around with them. There was always instruments at the home because Olympic Way is a bad area, and our house was a pretty decent house in Portmore. So the church would leave the equipment at our house. So I would always be
Nice.
messing around with the
Right.
equipment from then. So my mom could recall me playing around at 18 months. I don't quite remember. I remember at 3 year old playing stuff, but my mom could recall me playing very well around 18 months, around that time, a
Man,
year plus.
so
Yeah,
tender an age, right? Amazing.
yes, yes, yes. So then at the church now, I started, I was always, my dad is an excellent music connoisseur. You know, he always played wide range of music. And in Jamaica, surprisingly, he didn't play a lot of reggae
Huh,
because we
good.
were Christian. So he would play a lot of, the Manhattans and Sam Cooke, and a lot of Neil Diamond. My dad was a Neil Diamond fan in Jamaica.
Nice.
So then when I started to play music, reggae was the last thing in my mind because it was seen as, secular music,
Uh-huh.
And the other stuff was secular, but it was American. So I guess it was easier to play, in the home. So at 9, I started playing drums at the church. I could always play the drums because I play at home. But then I was brave enough at a kids crusade. The church had a crusade and then they had a kids section crusade. And I was brave enough to just go up. I just took the sticks and I started playing at the crusade. Then I think a week after, they made me a real like drummer to play for the church every Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And I was very um nervous. So I would play very careful. But the church would love that because then it could get you in a trance. I'd play the same beat for like an hour. and it could get you in that spiritual trance. They love when I played because I wasn't very fancy. You know what I mean? I didn't do too many fancy stuff, but I could do it.
Disciplined, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept it there because what keeps the groove, Jamaica is like Poco Mina. You know what I mean? Poco, obia, boom, 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 like trance. And the music gets you in a trance. So most of the church people, because the church was in the inner city, they were like country people, ghetto people. So they like the trance, you know? That's what original reggae would do. So I could now add, my dad recognized that we started growing, we started getting a little older, and I wanted to go to a studio. I always ask him every day, could he take me to a studio? But I would only ask to go to the gospel studio, which was Grace Chillers was the biggest gospel group in Jamaica at the time. So my dad knew them very well. So I was like, hey, Daddy, one day could I go to Grace Chillers studio? But he said to me, it's almost like the studio was really busy. He couldn't really get me there. So he suggested to take me to the Rasta studio, which was Caveman. That's the opposite of Christianity and stuff. So he said I should make him a vow that I won't take on any weed smoking or any Selassie business, right? So I said, okay, cool. So a lot of the guys at the studio knew who I was, and they were kind of covered me. Weed smoking and the Selassie thought they would just kind of not influence me in that way. And it just made me free at the studio to just, you know, I was just like a little studio engineer at the time. Caveman Studios in, it was off Latham Avenue, Swallowfield. Gussie Clark was across down the lane. That is Anchor. That's the legendary Anchor, where all those hits came from. So at Caveman, 809 band used to rehearse there. That's Dean Fraser's band I used to belong to. And that's the band that Barris used to rehearse with before he was like big Barris man. He was like still just you know, singing some stuff with Donovan Germain and stuff. So then at the studio, I got lucky one evening, Half Pint came in. Because there were always artists coming in. You mentioned a lot of them that came and interviewed. Yasso Farai, he had an ITAL store around the corner where they sell ITAL food. You know what I mean? Yes. So then when Half Pint came in the studio one day, and then he said to me that I played a song called My Donna. They wanted a keyboard player. But I don't know if Caveman didn't know that I was a keyboard player and I played like a bunch of instruments. He just had me as an engineer. So I played keyboards on My Donna for Half Pint. And I think I played bass and I played drums. And they lost it. They're like, you could do this all the time. I was like, yeah. You know? So from then now, me and Half Pint became very close. He started taking me home every evening. And that really kind of set me. My parents were surprised. It's like, this big artist, have you seen a little kid like this, you know? But I was very quiet at the time too. So Half Pint wasn't a guy who used to hang out in the inner city too much. And he's not an aggressive Jamaican. You know, the regular Jamaican is very aggressive. Yo, you don't go on corners, you don't do stuff like that. You just take me home, we go on a Rasta corner, go to Caveman, have a reasoning, and then just go home, you know what I mean? So it was a simple introduction for me. So it let me stay out of getting girlfriends and smoking weed and doing the extra things that would maybe cost me now today. You know, my discipline is pretty good today because of that. So then Half Pint, My Donna, I remember a guy named Fatis Sizzler, he produced Sizzler Exterminator label. So he had Sizzler, he had Luciano and a bunch of other people, but Sizzler and Luciano was like his main artist. I used to make some tracks for him too, because, you know, Sizzler really got discovered at Caveman song. A lot of people don't know that, you know what I mean? And that's where I think Fatis may have met him, maybe Augustine, but they had a good relationship after that, you know what I mean, during that time. So I played a lot of the stuff at the Caveman studio that will be later used on Sizzler album and a lot of those guys' things. Back then, musicians didn't really get credit like that, because it was just a 7-inch or a 12-inch. And there wasn't too much space on the 7-inch. It's the artist name, producer, and the label. So
the credits, you know, there's just a little bit.
Yeah, it's very small. So it was fun for me to hear stuff I played on in the dance when I'm playing drums at the church. So I'd stop and be like, hold on. I did that, and I would kind of wait until the church going into altar call, where they call people to the altar to pray, and I'll run down the street, what else to go at the dance to listen. Oh, I did that, and I did that.
That's
But I
mine.
didn't tell my dad, you know, it's still second. Yeah, I was like, I made that rhythm, I made that art, that's my praise right there, you know. And
Yeah.
I would always be doing that over the years. A lot of rhythms. I don't mention a lot of them. Because what I'm not credited on, I don't really mention because it's hard to prove, you know, at the time. Of my Donna, half pint, I did that. Most of half pint stuff. Not the big stuff like Sally. I was maybe young, really young at that time. But the stuff like during the Just Be Good to Me years, Just Be Good to Me, 2099, most of those tracks I played on a lot of those things. But then,
Wow.
no, the career started. My music professional career started. We relocated to New York 2001. So when I left Caveman, I got an address from Caveman with a bunch of studios that were based in New York. So one was Don Juan Studios, one was Keelan Beckford, one was Jalife, and one was Sir Tommy's, right? And Philip Smart. But Philip Smart was a little bit out of my reach because I lived in Brooklyn and that was way in Long Island and I didn't know my way around Brooklyn. So I went to Don Juan at first. And I think Don Juan studio was really like a hot studio, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of guys there, a lot of, you know, Tilly Bang and Sluggy Ranks and Plucky Ranks and, you know, bad boy thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think Don Juan wanted me around there at the time. So he didn't give me the reception I was wanting to get, you know? So then someone said, oh, you should go to Jalife. I said, oh, he's on my list, the next person list.
Yeah.
So I went to Jalife and no, I went to Keelan Beckford first. And I went to Keelan, I met Glenn Adams. He's the original keyboardist for the Upsetters, the Lee Scratch Perry Upsetters. So he taught me how to shuffle correctly, reggae. Glenn taught me that. So there's a song with a white band called the Slackers, the European band. And they did a record with Glenn Adams. It's called Schooling the Youth. It's like Schooling the Duke.
Yeah.
So the youth he was schooling on the organ was me.
Yeah,
So
right,
we both played on the same organ, you know?
Mentor.
And he would play, he would play, and I play, so he's on a wheelchair at the time. So when he slides to the next way, I got to spin behind him and catch the phrase over here, you know what I mean?
Right.
They call the song Schooling the Youth. So it's online, you can check it out. The Slackers, Schooling the Youth featuring Glenn Adams and JonFX. So they put me there as an artist too. That was really good, you know, it's my first thing in New York. And then after that now, I went to Jalife because Glenn Adams' studio, Keelan Beckford, had a record store downstairs. So Keelan Beckford, you may know him. He had a song called Combination. Combination, da, 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 da. Big song back in the 60s, you know what I mean? So Keelan Beckford's Combination is a big song. Reggae heads across the world know his song. So he had a record store. His record store at St. John and Schenectady was originally where Randy's Records started off in New York. They're what we call VP Records today. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's Keelan's store right there. So Keelan's store, because Glenn Adams didn't live on the premises, sometimes the studio wasn't open. So then I wanted to always be in the studio, you know, whenever I leave school or whatever. So then I found Jalife. When I went to Jalife, I was received very well instantly. Because it's almost like he was waiting for somebody to do some work. Yes, and then he had a Pro Tool system that he purchased. And the Pro Tool, he purchased it now because he had a lot of records on vinyl that he wanted to be cleaned. A lot of records that he had on tape that he wanted digitally remastered kind of sound. I knew nothing about computer or anything like that. But Pro Tools was the system that he had, the original SCSI Pro Tools with the files that you got to put in, the drivers that you got to put in the big racks. Yeah. So there's a guy there called Myri. Myri was a musician, a bass player in Jamaica back in the day. But he was there at Jalife also, and he taught me the Pro Tools system. You know what I mean? He taught me how to EQ and how to take out the static of the records and how to
clean it up.
Yeah, some brightness, you know. So Mary taught me that I didn't really know what I was doing. But I hear the records back today. So if you should hear Murderer, Barrington Levy on streaming or in CD, chances are I'm the one that cleaned that up.
So amazing, brother. All the different kinds of talent that you've actually worked with and contributed to. And I love the acapella that you're able to offer, you know, even in the tone of some of these artists, it's really kind of cool. You know, but let me ask this question now, John. Like, what a journey, man. You know, and so you mentioned vintage. Tell me a little bit about the project you're working on now.
Oh, so the vintage project now, my first Grammy nomination was 2022, last year. And I went to the Grammys with Jesse Royal, nominated for Natty Dread, his album. I played a bass on that song. And when I went there, I remember I started to get a taste, a memory of what I call white reggae, right? And what I would coin as white reggae is something that the world, it's a version of our music that the world love from Jamaica, but we don't really push that version of it. You know what I mean? There's a peace, a love, a light energy that they prefer from our culture. You know what I mean? It's not the version that we would want to push. The violence or, yo, John, the ghettos are struggling now. You know what I mean? And Chris Blackwell did a good job when he compiled the Legend album with Bob Marley. I don't think he would maybe be able to compile that album when Bob Marley was alive, because that was his take on the version of Bob Marley that he wanted to present to the world without the Rastaman vibration and the more aggressive songs. So then when I was at the Grammys, I was telling Jesse Royal that, hey, what if I do your album? Because this was the night before we got the ceremony. I was just kind of saying to him, whether we win or lose, let me make a vintage version of this same album. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's a group that I contacted back in the days too, that they did this. They're called the Frighteners. They're a white band in Brooklyn. And they did a Studio One Duke Reed sounding album years ago, about 2016. And I thought that was a good album, you know? Yeah. And I said, why more of us don't do that kind of sound? So I was always thinking that here I am at this Grammys, and this is the audience that would appreciate that song. Because I know Jamaica don't like old stuff. They never did. The guys in the 70s started the music in the 80s was too old. The guys in the 90s started the music in the 70s, in the 80s was too old. You know, and Jamaica was always like foreign stuff. Even we growing up in Jamaica, we're like, reggae. If you tell a Jamaican that you're going to give them ackee and saltfish in America, like, what? Oh, I'm burger. You know what I mean? So the thing where you couldn't really talk to a guy in Jamaica about mental or ska. A young guy, you know, I want to hear that. Hip hop, you know, Tupac, Biggie, MTV, VH1. Yeah. So it's something now with the vintage album. I always said in my mind that if an artist was serious enough, I would give them a vintage reggae song. Not the 70s, not the 80s, because those are easy to do. The 90s, easy stuff to do. The 50s and the 60s, because it was actually a more humbler time where people didn't have much. And they had to use the drums they have and the bass and the 2-track that they had. So that's what I wanted to do. So I went to Jamaica and I did some interviews on the TV about the music and the Grammys and why reggae is not really working anymore. You know what I mean? And a lot of people was saying to me that, what is your solution for it? I said, well, good you asked me this. I would add some.
I was going to ask you too, so I'm glad to hear. You know,
I said, well, I think we should add some more instruments to the sound, to the music. You know what I mean? Try to play a live bass, the same bass you play on the keyboard. Just play it live, just to see what it would sound like. You know what I mean? I'm definitely sure it's going to sound better. Or you can do both. You can go in the Pro Tools, play your live bass, your keyboard bass, chop it up, and put it on every note like your live bass. So you can have both sounds, the dynamic of the keyboard bass and the live acoustic of the live bass. great bands in America has been doing this for years. The Eagles, they're Led Zeppelin, they've been doing this. Queen, you know what I mean? The Freddie Mercury stuff. It was always, you know what I mean? They were doing this for a long time, and it makes the thing so rich. Anyway, so I decided that I'm going to do a vintage reggae album, and I was thinking, do I send the tracks out to the artists in Jamaica and let them voice? And I was just like, but I wouldn't want them to sing the songs the way how they sing them. So perfect. I want it to be like they don't really know how to sing that well. Because when a Jamaican gets a song, he'll over sing it. Baby, I love you. No.
See what you mean?
I just want to hear, baby, I love you. Girl, I can
More
have you.
straightforward and organic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they used to sing back in the day. You know what I mean? Remember the sun come shining. She beat the clouds. Simple like that. You know what I mean? Not with the runs, because it wasn't them showing off. It was you trying to get the record done. So I said, I'm going to do these songs as demos, the vintage album. So I was going to do, if I could have this girl. And then I did Train. Take the train to me. I was going to give that to Barris. That's what's had in my brain. I was like, I was going to give this one to Romain Verga and this one to Chris and Rumko-san, you know?
Yes.
Sizzla.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I was going to give him Work It Out or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And when I did the entire project, a guy named Junior Rodigan in Boston said to me, hey, man, you should release this yourself.
Yeah, right.
I was like, with me singing? He's like, yeah, with you singing. I was like, oh, well, I'll try. So I just released it. You know what I mean?
That's great, John.
It's doing well to this day. It got me here.
Yes,
you know,
brother, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
there's no samples on it.
It's
or
good.
anything like that.
Like I said, I'm glad to actually you're coming to the forefront. You know what I mean? Because you've been behind the scenes. You know, the man behind the curtain in elevating so many different other artists to embrace, you know, kind of your talented ear and what works or what could work. So let me ask this question: as far as artists in particular, is there any artist that you haven't worked with before that you've thought, oh man, I would love to connect with them, or I'd love to help elevate them to kind of a new level?
In the reggae world, I always there's a thing I spoke to him about. I spoke to Barris about it, about me doing an acoustic album of his hit songs, just to present it to the world category. So the reggae, the world, because I see him as a big world artist in my brain. You know what I mean? He's somebody that I've always thought about to do that with. This is in the reggae world. The American world, it's actually easier for me to get to anyone, to get to anybody. Neil Diamond, Ed Sheeran. In the American world, it's just me having more of those plaques. Having another platinum plaque, you call your publisher, hey, I got a record for Neil Diamond. Hey, I got a record for, you know, whoever, Ed Sheeran. And they'll pitch it. And if you pitch a record to, let's say, an Ed Sheeran, if he doesn't take it, then it will maybe go to a Chris Brown. You know what I mean?
What you mean? Yeah.
So the American world is easy. It's easy for me to maneuver. It's the Jamaican world that is a little tricky. It's actually very easy, you know, but I don't like to use the method to get it done, because the method is more a bad boy method, you know, where I could call a gangster and he would tell a guy, hey, go and do that now, and then they'll do it for me. Right. I don't want it like that.
Yeah, I understand. You know? Yeah, you want it to be more voluntary.
Yeah. I said, let me start with the vintage album, because this is the 50s and the 60s. I've also done the 70s, which will be released soon. I've also done the 80s and the 90s.
Nice, man. Like, well, listen, that's going to be a great, you know, trilogy, and then you'll build on
an anthology.
Yes, right. Yes. Yeah. You know, we're going to be looking forward to following your progress, John, and everything that you create, and the impact you've made thus far in introducing new tools and ways to, in essence, you know, create and expand upon, you know, all these traditional genres. can you tell me, as far as, do you self-promote yourself? I mean, tell me about your social media and other kinds of digital platforms where you're available.
So I just started to focus on social media a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
I'm everywhere as JonFX, JonFX, verified on Twitter, verified on Instagram. I have 1 million followers on Instagram, which I am grateful for that.
Beautiful.
Facebook, JonFX too. Everywhere, JonFX, everywhere as JonFX.
JonFX.
And I started to post on the stories. Yeah, I started to do a lot on the TikTok also. I recognize I would play piano on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
No one cares about that. But then I'll just put on a suit, open my shirt, and I get a lot of followers. I just do the crap on TikTok. And I still just try to keep
platform where
Instagram.
you got to catch people in the first 3 seconds. Otherwise you get swiped out.
Yeah.
Got to be something compelling in that first hook, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
But
bubblegum.
to have the kind of
It's
talent
just,
that you have, you know what I mean? You can engage someone as soon as, after they're hooked, to find out what you're
yeah,
delivering,
yeah. So it's fun for me. And what we're speaking about recording and techniques and stuff like that, tape and Pro Tools, it's for me, each element has a positive in it, Tape gives you the warmth that you need, but then the Pro Tools give you the cleanup thing where you could take out a lot of the hissing, a lot of the mud out of the music. So TikTok, LinkedIn and Facebook is more like organic and reaching out to people organic, and TikTok is like just, taking out the mud and just getting to the point and doing something stupid or, something engaging. So it's something where I embrace them both, you know what I mean? I embrace the natural look, I embrace the suits, I embrace the more organic, and I embrace the digital because they both have their purposes, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Put it like this. The reggae that the urban world loves, the New York and the Brooklyn, is the reggae of the 90s, 80s, 90s. And that was all digital music. A lot of people don't know that, but they were real musicians playing them. So that's all drum machine. You know what I mean?
You know what, John? You tend to have a real optimistic perspective about a lot of these changes that have taken place. You know what I mean? Whereas other artists or producers may, feel like there's, a special aspect to a period of time. You know what I mean? And they demonize other things. But you seem to embrace and take,
you know why?
You know
why?
Yeah.
Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
My dad is born in the 40s, right? I'm going to be very blunt. My dad thought what we call old reggae, like people call 80s vintage reggae. My dad taught all of that 80s music, Yellow Man, Zungu, Zungu, Zeng, Ninja Man. My dad thought that was utter rubbish.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
So what we would see, because he's coming from Desmond Decker, and singing songs and born to love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, he's coming from the original time, the young, gifted, and black, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then to hear somebody go zongo, zongo, go zongo, he's not hearing any musical elements. But I've seen where him and I both come to appreciate that, because then the 90s came in, and then the Elephant Man came in, and then he could not even register those in his head. And that was my era. And I could see that was considered garbage to people in the 80s. And then now I see when the 2000s came in now with the Tommy Lee and the stuff, where they consider that as garbage. And every year I met X-Kentashian, right? The rapper that I got the platinum song from. Rest in peace, the young kid. When I met him at the studio, he came with a song called Look at Me. Think I'm again. Take him up. I didn't know what this song was. Andre recorded it at the studio. The song went platinum the next week. So then I recorded a song with him called Jocelyn Flores with a guitar and a thing. That record now is 1.9 billion, 8 times platinum on the RIAA. And it's the big, huge record on Spotify and everywhere. And I started to understand their struggles. It's the same struggle that everybody came up with. They didn't have any money, they didn't have anything. Same thing Tupac, same thing Yellowman, same thing everybody had. And they had to find their way, and music was their way. And that's their version with the technology that they have today. You know what I mean? Back in the days, it was the ADAC tape and the 8-track, and that's what they had.
Right.
I even overheard Nile Rodgers talk about Sugar Hill Gang rapping over his instrumental. Hibby, hibby, hobby, you don't stop. We do the rock it up to the boogie bang bang. He hated it. That was good times. That was good times. That was his good times.
I remember, sure. Good times.
That was that was the extended version without the rhythm section and with just the bass and the drum on and on. He hated it. And that became the precursor for hip hop. So when I look at it, I was like, what's there to like about this garbage thing today? There's stuff in it. And that what keeps me maybe young. Because when the young kids come to me, yo, man, dude, I got this record, yo, it's fire. It's like, nothing about this is fire to me. But I could see where people would like it. And I was like, well, it's the same thing where I think this is garbage. Me personally, my music is the 20s. Just me personally. Ed Ames, Per Como, Humperdinck, that's my music. I don't really like anything after that. But I could see why people would like them. And I could see, oh, what is in this record? Why you guys like it? And then that's when I would put my little opinions to the side and embrace each step. Because if you look at it like that, you won't be able to grow. You'd stay very bitter. You know what I mean? And it will really mess with you. You're not even want to be alive in this time to see your grandkids and your children.
I think it makes you stagnant, right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
It puts you in kind of a dead end situation. But you know, it's interesting because, you know, what came to mind when you were describing that as well is I had another artist who was saying, you know, I saw that Tom and Jerry cartoon where, you know, they had a stand-up bass. Is you ain't my baby, you know? And
baby, I don't thought so, but you paid his tail.
Right, exactly right. And like, you know, to me, there's just something that, like, you know, these different kinds of media and these different kinds of, you know, introductions to sounds, you know what I mean? They can have just a dramatic impact. And you've got one of these ears that can pick out and define, you know, specific aspects to be able to replicate into new formats. That is really tremendous, JonFX. Amazing. So listen, we're going to follow your progress. And you know what? We're also really encouraged by the fact that you're going to be available on the FENIX360 app platform as well, so that fans can just there.
Yes.
And you know, the innovations that you're involved in, man, are really going to continue to impact other artists and music in general as it's evolving. So your optimism, man, is so appreciated. And I'm so grateful that we had a chance to connect today, man.
Yes, John, thank you for having me here. It's always fun to go back through the memory lane and show the stages, honestly, of what brought me, John Crawford, to this JonFX stage and platform. And there's, you know, I mean, I really am humbled and grateful for these platforms here that you have.
Me too.
For us to showcase this.
John, you know what I mean? You know, it's an inspiration to others who are on their way up. And we'll look at you, you know what I mean, as a voice of reason and also experience, but also enthusiasm. So that's why I'm so grateful you're going to be on the platform too. So listen, I want everyone to tune in to the social media links you find for JonFX and look for his rise coming up on FENIX360. And brother, man, thank you, man. Blessings and respect.
Yes. Thank you, John. Humble. Thank you for having me here. One love. Peace.
One love, brother.
Yes.
Peace.
Yes. All right.
I'm taking your attention. What there is worth to do. I'm taking your vibes, so you see there is work to do. To keep a little ancient, brother. No left it on my conscience, sister. While you sweat, you are gonna reap, just know there's work